It's Tuesday, November 9. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The Education Ministry says about 66% of the primary schools across the island opened their doors to students for face-to-face classes on Monday. It was the first full day of classes for more than 200 schools in nearly 2 years. Acting Chief Education Officer Dr. Kasana Troop says the additional schools are awaiting inspections by the Health Ministry. Dr. Troop says a few schools were impacted by the severe weather which affected western parishes on the weekend and throughout Monday. Vaccination is the quickest way to get the school system back to normal. That's the word from Minister of State for Education, Youth and Information, Robert Nestor Morgan. He was one of the speakers at the Education Ministry's All About the Youth Vaccination Virtual Forum on Monday.
I think that a majority of people want schools to open. I mean, us here at the ministry, we are dying for schools to open. Yes. Because we recognize the significant challenges that our young people have faced. A disconnection from the education system is not just a disconnection from the education system, it's also a disconnection from the young people's society, their clubs, their groups, their friends, their extracurricular activities, their JCDC, their football competition. I know the Costa Cup is starting, which were not able to have previously.
Minister Morgan says about 200 schools have been approved to conduct face-to-face classes, but this is less than half of the number of schools in Jamaica.
So we are not going to be able to open schools unless the Ministry of Health approves it.
Which is right.
So we've started with about 300 and odd primary and infant schools. I think today we got over 200 of them were able to open.
Nice.
But that's out of 700.
Oh.
And then we have another. Overall, our public school system is about 1,000. So we have a very far way to go.
Yes.
But we have to be very careful how we do it because we do not want, our schools have been very safe. When we did the risk ranking approach last year and we were able to do some face-to-face, we never had any significant challenges with COVID. And we do not want our schools to become centers of COVID spread.
Yes.
So we have to work with the health inspectors, we have to work with the Ministry of Health, we have to work with our regions to make sure that whenever we do open, which we are working hard to do, that is very safe for the students and the persons who work in the system.
Okay.
He says a lot of teachers have been receptive to the COVID-19 vaccination call.
There are still some of them, we have to be frank, there's still a lot of them who have questions that need to be answered. I know that the stakeholders support vaccination. The Jamaica Teachers Association supports it. The Principals Association supports it. They support it. We support it. The Ministry of Health supports it. So if we continue to work with our stakeholders, I think that over time, as they recognize the importance of it, I think more of them will do it. I think a large number of them have, but we still would like some more.
Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Thompson, says the amount of COVID-19 vaccines that have had to be discarded is within the international best practice of 10 to 30%. He says Jamaica has only discarded 12% of the COVID-19 vaccines it has received. Speaking at the National Arena recently, he explained that while he's not making excuses for disposing of the medicine, refusal of persons to take the vaccine should not be seen as discouragement to acquire more. Minister Thompson says Jamaica has received 2.3 million doses of vaccines through purchases and gifts and has had to discard 280,000. The Health Minister, alongside Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, formally thanked the Canadian government at the event for its support given to the national vaccination program. The St. James Municipal Corporation is carrying out a damage and risk assessment of the parish following infrastructure damage and land slippage in several sections of the parish due to heavy rains on the weekend. Deputy Mayor of Montego Bay, Councillor Richard Vernon, says they are working on a parish disaster plan which would incorporate an evacuation plan. He told JIS that the evacuation plan will also incorporate zonal committees to be established in different communities across the parish. He says that a drain cleaning and de-bushing exercise will be are done among the primary focus as the entity gears up for the Christmas season. Jamaicans are being urged to purchase meat from licensed butchers only. The call comes in the interest of public safety and in a bid to encourage responsibility among consumers to make wise and healthy food decisions.
Slaughterhouses are premises approved and registered for the slaughtering and dressing of animals intended for human consumption. Reports sometimes surface of unlicensed butchers operating from unregistered slaughterhouses, selling meat not passed by public health inspectors to unsuspecting consumers. Regulations of the slaughter industry in Jamaica aims to improve hygiene and reduce the contamination of meat and spread of disease. The regulations call for butchers to be registered with the local health board, along with other requirements. It also stipulates that the slaughtering of animals must take place in a licensed slaughterhouse with specific hygiene standards. There, the meat is inspected by the public health inspector. This is critical as they protect the integrity of the meat being purchased by consumers. Meat inspection allows for the detection and prevention of foodborne pathogens or chemical contaminants in meat. Once the meat is deemed safe, it is given a stamp of approval by the public health inspector. In a recent interview with JIS, Chief Veterinarian Dr. Osbill Watson urged Jamaicans to make sure they are buying meat from a registered butcher or establishment. Jamaicans are also cautioned to be careful of where and from whom they source their meats. The warning comes as prey de larceny still occurs, and there has been cases of people selling the carcasses of stolen animals. For the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
Derrimon Trading Company is seeking further expansion opportunities. We hear more about their plans as well as the usual market update in this business report with Gabriel Thompson.
Derrimon Trading Company has grown and is seeking further expansion opportunities. In January, the company raised approximately $3.5 billion through an additional public offering APO. These funds were used to purchase a wholesale cash and carry food service distributor in New York, expand retail operation in central Jamaica, and enhance its Delect food brand and product line. Speaking recently at the company's annual general meeting, Chairman and Group CEO Derek Cottrell said expansion of the company's retail sector via select grocers Maypen is about 60% complete.
We are now in construction of what will be our biggest store, one of Jamaica's biggest supermarket. Certainly will be the biggest in central Jamaica. We are putting the finishing touches on select grocers in Maypen, and we're hoping to make it for this year, but with the supply chain issues, we won't be able to open that store until early next year. So I know it's a little bit of a disappointment for the people in Maypen who are all saving up their money waiting to spend it at our store.
He also spoke to the impacts of the coronavirus pandemic on shipping and logistics.
Let me be very frank with you. It is affecting the entire world, and Jamaica is no exception. The freight rates has gone up tremendously, particularly from, well, all over the world, but particularly from Asia. When we used to pay like $3,000 US for a 40-foot container out of China, there are rates in excess of $20,000 US now for the same trip. Products have also gone up. Energy costs has gone up. Commodity price has gone up. Pretty much everything has gone up. We have managed to, as best as possible, to hold straight with a lot of the price increases, but I just wanted to let us know that this is not something that is in control of anybody here in Jamaica. Raw material price has gone up and will continue to go up. We have no choice but to pass on some of these increases to consumers.
Speaking to the newly acquired International Food Store, the group CEO said Derrimon has moved business from a mom-and-pop operation structure to a more corporate one. Mr. Cottrell says capturing the diaspora market is a dream for Derrimon.
There are 3 million people approximately living here in Jamaica, but the diaspora has 17 times the spending power of Jamaica. So if you were to put it in number of people, it's not exactly this, but just in terms of number of people, it would be as if we have a market of 51 million people overseas. But it's equivalent to having 51 million people selling to abroad. So we are very happy to participate in this market. Our ambition is not just for the diaspora. Our ambitions are bigger, but it takes time. So we're starting with getting income from other markets that are more affluent and has bigger GDP. So our first furrow was an acquisition of a supermarket and a wholesale business in New York.
At the end of the half year ending June 2021, Derrimon Trading had cash resources of $531 million. Chief Financial Officer Ian Kelly says despite the pandemic's impact, the company has managed to reverse its earning and debt structure.
Where our debt to equity, which would have moved from previously 78% debt and 22% equity, to a reversal of that. So our equity is almost 80% and our debt is just 20%. Hey, that's a big deal.
For the Business Report on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Foreign exchange trading for Monday, November 8, the US dollar sold for an average $156.32. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $125.54. The pound sterling traded for $210.80, and the euro sold for an average $183.90. In Monday's trading session, the JSE Combined Index advanced by 3,226 points to close at over 403,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 100 stocks, of which 35 advanced, 48 declined, and 17 traded firm. The Junior Market Index declined by 47 points to close at over 3,000 units. Stocks advanced for 1834 Investments Limited, CAC 2000 9.5% preference shares, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Stocks declined for Access Financial Services Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Barita Investments Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Berger Pence Jamaica Limited, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares was the volume leader with over 1.8 million units, followed by Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with over 1.5 million units, and Siboney Group Limited with over 1.1 million units. In market data for oil was down Tuesday morning in Asia. However, stronger fuel demand as the U.S. passed a massive infrastructure bill capped losses for the black liquid. Brent crude futures slid 0.22% to $83.25 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude futures inched down 0.09% to $81.86 a barrel. And with that, we close this Tuesday edition of the Business Report inside the news on PBCJ. I'm Gabrielle Thompson. Pleasant viewing.
In regional news, in Grenada, Infrastructure Minister Norland Cox says a shortage of building materials is responsible for some of the government's incomplete projects. More details in this report.
Several hardware companies in Grenada have confirmed a shortage in some construction material on the island due to delays in shipment. Infrastructure Minister Norland Cox, in a recent press brief, stated that a shortage of the construction material contributed to some projects not being completed on time.
Unfortunately, I cannot give you I do not have an update as to where that project is right now and what's the reason for the starting and stop. But what I can tell you is that we have been having some challenges in terms of inputs, materials, supplies. because of COVID, because of the amount of work that we have ongoing in Grenada, there has been a significant demand for materials, lumber, sand, cement, steel. And so I want to suspect that is one of the reasons why you have those stoppages, persons not being able to get material. We also have challenges, and I can tell you we have concrete roads that have been cast, and you have challenges getting concrete from the companies that supply ready mixed concrete because of the demand that we have. So those are some of the issues that are taking place in the background that I believe would contribute to any stoppages of the job.
Providing updates on some of the other major projects across the country, the Infrastructure Minister indicated that the second contractor for the St. Johns River flood mitigation project has received the green light to proceed.
Package 1 and 2 was awarded to Creative Design, and they have received a no objection to proceed, and we expect Creative Design to commence work, mobilization work, in the month of November. So we're going to see work starting higher up to the mouth of the river. Creative Design is going to start from around El Apostle throughout to the mouth of the river.
Sunrise Construction was awarded packages 3 and 4 of that project, which is presently ongoing. Their scope of work spans from Steele's Bridge to the back of the L.A. Purcell building. Another of what he deems an important project is the Extreme Rainfall Project that will see the reconstruction of Brothers Bridge in St. John's as part of the scope of work to be undertaken. 2 contractors are assigned to this project.
The next project that I want to update the public on, and that has to do with the natural disaster rehabilitation and reconstruction, the Extreme Rainfall Project. That is a project that is done in the core of St. John's. And so work is commenced on the Brothers Bridge and a slope stabilization project. That also is the second part of that important project. The contract for that is 2 persons, 2 contractors that will be implementing that phase of that project. That is Sunrise Construction and Gilbert Engineering Company, and we expect to see work start in November for Gilbert.
The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has assured that it will remain focused when it comes to its duty and responsibility to the people of the country. This from Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines. The minister met with the executive collectively at the Hyatt Regency in Port of Spain on Monday. Mahala Joseph Wharton has more.
Deputy Commissioner of Police MacDonald Jacobs said during their meeting with the Minister of National Security, the focus was mainly on the management of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. He said if the TTPS isn't managed effectively, it will translate through their work. As it pertains to manpower, he said the TTPS is adequately staffed, but what is needed is the proper rationalization of the manpower.
But the question of whether or not we need additional persons, we always need additional persons because our attrition rate is high within the police service. Even within this month, we just have around 90-something persons will be passing out of the police academy, and because of COVID, the recruitment process has slowed down a bit.
DCP Jacobs said there is a need to accelerate the TTPS's recruitment drive in order to fill vacancies as they are currently short of 1,000 plus officers.
We are short by about 1,000 and something police officers, and we need to have rapid recruitment to fill that. And if that is filled, then the question of having a shortage will not exist.
He said the shortage of officers has also presented the TTPS with challenges during the pandemic, especially when officers need to go into quarantine. As it pertains to the surge in crime, Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines said crime surges are not new.
When I came to the Ministry of National Security back in the early 2000s as a Minister of State in there working along with Minister Martin Joseph and others, at that time Mr. Filbert was Commissioner, Mr. Rez, Deputy and so on, we had a crime surge, we had crime surges. I listened to calypsos from the 40s, from the 50s, the story is repeating itself.
Minister Hines was also questioned on the current selection process for a Commissioner of Police. He said the law as it exists is what will be used to guide the process to appoint another commissioner of police. Mahalia Joseph Wharton, TTT News.
In St. Kitts Nevis, a national radio awareness campaign titled Stop the Persistent Organic Pollutants, POPs, was launched on Monday. Andrew Huey of SKN Newsline has the details.
A national radio awareness campaign entitled Stop the Persistent Organic Pollutants, POPs, was launched on Monday, November 2nd, across St. Kitts Nevis. This campaign aims at educating the general public about the existence and impacts of POPs on our livelihood and the physical environment. The Science and Research Manager at the St. Kitts and Nevis Bureau of Standards, Dr. Marcus Natta, explained what POPs are.
Persistent organic pollutants are man-made organic materials. Primarily, they are toxic chemicals that are pesticides, also industrial chemicals, and those that are unintentionally produced through the byproducts of burning, particularly.
Mr. Noah Mills, manager and owner of Ascend Consulting, is responsible for the promotion of the POPs campaign.
POPs, meaning persistent organic pollutants, could very well be hazardous to the environment and harmful to plants, animals, and human beings. Apart from the awareness program, there's also a poetry and spoken word competition, of which primary school and secondary school students can participate and win cash and other prizes.
Interested students were informed that their poem should have at least 4 to 6 verses. Competition guidelines were shared with school principals and are available at the schools locally. They were further advised that all poetry and spoken word pieces have a deadline of November 29th, 2021. The finals of the poetry and spoken word competition is slated to be held on December 4th at the TDC Home and Building Depot in St. Kitts. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.
In sports, Jamaica's sprint star Elaine Thompson Herah was named Female Athlete of the Year by the North American, Central American and Caribbean Athletics Association following her successful 2021 season. The two-time sprint double Olympic Games gold medalist won 3 gold medals at the Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan in August. She defended her sprint double titles, running Olympic Games records of 10.54 seconds and 21.53 seconds in the 100 meters and 200 meters respectively, and was a member of the women's 4x100 meters relay team that won the gold medal. Meanwhile, American shot putter Ryan Crozer, who set the world records in the indoor and outdoor shot put, was named the Male Athlete of the Year. In other sporting news, with the West Indies men's T20 World Cup campaign at the end, the attention now turns to the women's tour of the Pakistan, which began on Monday in Karachi with the first of 3 one-day internationals. Wayne Cunningham has the report from that encounter.
The West Indies were invited to bat first and got 244 before losing the wicket of Rashada Williams for 15. They also lost the captain cheaply, Stephanie Taylor, falling for 6. Any early setbacks were remedied with a century partnership between Deandra Dottin and Hayley Matthews in the middle of the innings. Dottin would dominate the bowling to hit an impressive 132 off 146 balls, which included 18 fours and 2 sixes. Matthews contributed 57 off 67 with 8 boundaries, as the West Indies women posted a competitive 253 for 8 in 50 overs. Anam Amin took 5 for 35 to be the leading wicket-getter for Pakistan. Fatima Sana took 2 for 65. The hosts were wobbling in the chase at 121 for 5 in the 28 over, but recovered somewhat with the part-time bowlers in the attack. That was not enough though, as the run rate was never challenged. Pakistan managed to reach 208 for 9 as the overs ran out. The top scorer for them, Aliyah Riaz with 46. Iram Javid, 40, was the next best score. Hayley Matthews also performed with the ball for the regional squad, registering the best figures of 3 for 31 in her 10 overs. She got good support from Shakira Selman with 2 for 35, as the West Indies got the tour off to a fine start with a 45-run victory. Dottin, for her 132, was a judge player of the match. Wayne Cunningham, TTT Sports.
And that's the news. Thank you so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.